League Zero Formula Round 9 at Autódromo José pace, a symphony of chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Autódromo José pace, where the air is thick with anticipation, tyre smoke, and the unmistakable scent of overcooked egos. If you thought Brazilian carnivals were wild, you've clearly never witnessed the spectacle that is Round 9 of the League Zero Formula. From the moment the lights went out, it was apparent that this race would be less about precision driving and more about survival. Xavier Snav kicked things off by finding trouble in Sector 1. Twice, in the same lap. It's almost as if he was testing the circuit's durability. Rumour has it he's now on first-name terms with every marshal on that corner. Meanwhile, at the front of the grid, Antonio Bianchi seized the lead from Arturo Mayorga, faster than a seagull stealing chips at the seaside. Arturo, perhaps feeling generous, also handed Michael Fairchild a free pass to P2. One might suggest Arturo was more interested in watching the race from a different perspective, or perhaps he just fancied a challenge. But the real action was unfolding behind them. Finley Fitzsimmons and Jaden Callaway were carving through the field like hot knives through butter. Finley overtook so many cars on lap 1 that we started to wonder if he'd discovered a hidden shortcut. Jaden, not to be outdone, weaved his way up to P6, overtaking anything and everything in his path, except maybe common sense. Over on social media, the drivers' chat was lighting up. Antonio quipped, "Was about 6 or 7 wrecks last night. Would love to know which one." To which AJ Brenner responded with a flurry of gifs and a level of sarcasm that could peel paint off a wall. "Not my fault, Ray doesn't know how to back out of the corner," he retorted. Clearly, the blame game is alive and well in League Zero. Back on track, lap 2 was an exercise in mayhem. Arturo Mayorga seemed determined to set a new record for the number of incidents in Sector 1, spinning not once, but twice. Perhaps he was auditioning for a new motorsport ballet. The spinster of São Paulo has a nice ring to it. Antonio and Michael continued their tango at the front, swapping P1 like two kids fighting over the last piece of cake. Lap 7 was particularly enthralling, with the lead changing hands more times than a forged banknote. Observers began to question whether they were racing or just indecisive. Amidst this, Finley Fitzsimmons discovered that Sector 2 had developed a personal vendetta against him. After running into trouble twice, it was clear that the only thing consistent about his performance was inconsistency. Perhaps he was trying to find a new line through the grass. Meanwhile, in the virtual paddock, Gail Rolls pondered the deeper questions of artificial intelligence, asking, "Can I make the bot self-aware?" If only he applied such philosophical musings to his racing strategy, he might spend less time contemplating and more time competing. Lap 8 saw Jaden Callaway mysteriously leave the pits back in P8. For a driver of his caliber, it's akin to Usain Bolt starting a race with his shoelaces tied together. One can only assume he fancied a bit of overtaking practice. As the race wore on, drivers began to find their rhythm, or at least, fewer walls. But fate wasn't done toying with Michael Fairchild. After battling valiantly for the lead, he ran into trouble in Sector 3 on lap 20. Some say he was trying to decipher the perfect racing line. Others believe he momentarily forgot he was in a race at all. In the closing laps, Antonio Bianchi managed to hold on to P1, perhaps fueled by his earlier online declaration that his competitors were incompetent and have no communication skills. Strong words, but as they say, if you talk the talk, you'd better walk the walk, or in this case, drive the drive. Liptaski secured a remarkable P2, quietly methodical amidst the bedlam, proving that sometimes the best strategy is to let others trip over themselves. And rounding out the podium was Arturo Mayorga, who miraculously found his way back to P3 after his earlier pirouettes. Maybe those spins were just part of an elaborate warm-up routine. Elsewhere, Jace Meyer and Xavier Snav finished P5 and P4 respectively, despite their eventful races. Jace, who at one point ran into trouble in Sector 1, seemed to think the best path was the one less travelled, preferably off-track. Xavier, after his early escapades, managed to climb back up the ranks, perhaps realising that avoiding Sector 1 mishaps is beneficial. Off the track, the drivers couldn't resist a bit of friendly needling. Gale insisted on wishing Gareth McAllister a happy birthday, despite Gareth's protests that it wasn't his birthday. "Clearly it's a birthday," Gale retorted. "It's comforting to know that in the midst of on-track chaos, there's always time for a bit of confusion and misplaced celebration." As for our earlier duelists, Antonio and Michael, they finished worlds apart. Michael crossed the line in P7, likely pondering where it all went wrong, or perhaps crafting his next witty comeback for the group chat. In the aftermath, Arturo mused about the race report bot, warning, "Anything you say might be used against you, or in your favour if you play it right." Wise words, though given the day's performances, perhaps the drivers should focus less on AI interactions and more on Apex interactions. So, what have we learned from round 9? That Autódromo José Carlos Pace unpredictability is the only guarantee. Drivers will find trouble in the most unexpected places, often repeatedly, and social media banter is as much a part of the game as tyre strategy. As the sun sets on another tumultuous race, we look forward to the next round, where surely, undoubtedly, things will be different. Or not. After all, this is League Zero formula, where the only thing faster than the cars is the rate at which drivers hurl playful insults at each other online. Until next time, keep your chats witty, your overtakes clean or not, and remember, in racing, as in life, it's not about the mistakes you make, but how creatively you justify them afterwards.